Are you still a never Trump?
You describe that like it's. Do you still have a disease? Yes, I still have the disease of being never Trump, Jesse. In fact, I'm more never Trump than I've ever been throughout the campaign. I've tried very, very hard from the beginning to give Donald Trump a chance. You probably don't know this, but I've actually met Donald Trump backstage at the Today Show. He actually sent me a very kind note helping me on a story that I've been working on for the last several years, which is the whole so-called Penn State scandal, which I believe the news media blew badly.
Right.
I'm somebody that should be a Donald Trump fan by all accounts. I despise the media. I despise political correctness. I hate the Clintons. I'm a middle-aged, angry white male. So, I really ought to be on the Trump train, but I just can't do it because of basically three reasons. I don't believe that Donald Trump is remotely qualified to be president. I don't believe that Donald Trump is remotely conservative or Republican, and I don't believe Donald Trump has any chance whatsoever of ever beating Hillary Clinton, and that will be proven in about 11, 12 days.
Right. What is it about him that? So, who are you supporting in this election?
I have my California ballot in my office, and I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do. I'm not going to vote for Trump. I'm not going to vote for Hillary. Of course, my vote doesn't really matter here in California. But if you ask what I'm supporting, here's what I'm supporting. And I know you're not going to like this, Jesse, but I believe that the only way that conservatism survives going forward at this point, since Donald Trump is going to lose, he is going to lose.
And
that
how
is
do you know that? How do you know that for sure?
I know that because I can do math, and because I'm very good at seeing what's reality as opposed to what people want to believe. You probably don't remember this, but in 2012, Jesse, well, every conservative was telling you that we should be getting ready for a Mitt Romney presidency. I wrote a very prominent column entitled "Why Romney Lost," and I wrote this the day before the election, and it was something that I had said was going to happen for a very long time. And I liked Mitt Romney a lot. I was a big supporter of Mitt Romney.
I was too.
But I've never been wrong in a presidential election. I'm not going to be wrong about this one. There is no path for Donald Trump to get 270 electoral college votes. It just does not exist. As a matter of fact, I'd love for you to tell me what that path is. What is his path? As of this morning, there is no path unless the polls are so historically, catastrophically wrong that there is no precedent for it. And I just don't believe that in an age, where, Jesse, I find it funny that we have so little faith in data in an era where we can tell how much box office a movie is going to do for its first weekend by Friday afternoon, and we can be within a couple of $1,000s of that estimate, and yet people think that somehow the polls are that catastrophically off. They're not. There is no path. Trump will lose.
John, I think it's the same path that gave Ronald Reagan the presidency, and the silent majority will show up, and we see that happening somewhat in Florida right now with early voting, especially the independents are supporting him down there, according to the reports. And the Republicans in Florida are supporting him, and there are more Democrats supporting Trump than we know of, because a lot of folks are not telling the surveys, they're not telling the media who it is that they are voting for Donald Trump.
Well, I don't believe that there's any evidence of that myth, as that there's these hidden Trump voters. As far as the 1980 Reagan narrative, Jesse, that's a myth. That is a myth. Ronald Reagan was leading the polls for a very long time before that election. Well, the margin was much larger than expected because things broke hard his way at the very end after that last debate. That is true. But it was not a surprise that Ronald Reagan won that election. And by the way, that was in the dark ages of polling. There was far, far less polling. There was almost no state polling like we have today. And by the way, this is a completely different country than 1980. There are so few people alive today, percentage-wise, who voted for Ronald Reagan in 1980, that it's almost an irrelevant statistic. And the so-called Reagan Democrats are all either dead or they're Republicans. So this is
Why
a
don't
different
you
country.
believe that there is a silent majority out there now? Because
Based on what?
I run into them.
Based on what?
I run into them all the time, and especially in the black community. They're not saying that they're voting for Trump, because if you confess that in the black community, you will be attacked in a major way. And so a lot of people are not saying.
So how do you explain Diamond and Silk? How do you explain Diamond and Silk? The reality is, if you're a black person who's if you're a black person who's a Trump supporter, you actually get on television. Because you're so rare.
No,
I think the opposite is true.
I'm telling you, this time around, and I can't at this point predict how many, what percentage of blacks going to vote for Trump, but I can tell you, for the first time since I've been involved in voting, have I heard black people say they're either going to vote for Trump or not vote at all, but they're not telling anyone that they're voting for Trump, because it's very difficult in the black community. I've never seen that happen before. Also, let me ask, you said that Donald Trump is not qualified. Who were you supporting during the primaries, the Republican primaries?
Well, I wanted the person who was going to win and who was qualified.
And who was that?
At first, I thought that the person who had the best path to win, because I understand math and I understand the Electoral College, was Scott Walker. Unfortunately, Scott Walker did not get ratings for Fox News Channel or traffic for the Drudge Report or ratings for talk radio. So he was not somebody that the news, although Matt Drudge originally did, I think, take a liking to Scott Walker. As soon as Donald Trump got in, he discarded Scott Walker for Donald Trump because Donald Trump was good for everybody's ratings. Once the voting started, I believe that Marco Rubio was the safest bet as a conservative who would actually win. And I think that I've been vindicated on that at every level. One, he's doing much, much better than Donald Trump is in Florida, which is obviously a must-win state. And two, we now know from WikiLeaks that it was Marco Rubio who the Democrats feared most, and that was for good reason, because he would be wiping the floor with Hillary Clinton right now. But we conservatives, we wanted to have a temper tantrum, and he wasn't good enough, so we decided to go with a liberal con man who was unqualified for the job, and Donald Trump.
Rubio is a weak phony in that he pretended not to be for amnesty for illegal aliens. He pretended that he wanted to shut the borders down to prevent them from coming in.
Yeah,
and Rubio was lying.
You mean when he in 2013 when he wrote a column for CNN saying that he was in favor of no borders internationally? That was really a bad idea by Rubio. Oh, I'm sorry, Jesse. That was Donald Trump in 2013 writing for CNN that he does not believe in any borders globally. Donald Trump duped you. He's a fraud. He's a fraud. In 2012, he says he doesn't believe in deportation. He's a fraud.
John, calm down.
I'm sorry, facts are troublesome for you, Jesse, but you've been duped by Donald Trump. He's not a conservative. He's not anti-illegal immigration. He's telling you what you want to hear because he's duping you.
Why are you over speaking me? Why are you over talking me? I want to ask you this. We know that Rubio is not going to put a wall around the borders. He's not going to do anything that. But we don't know that Donald Trump is not going to do it.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't. How do you know that?
Yes, we do. And by the way, he just admitted this week that Mexico's not going to pay for it. We are.
How do you know that Donald Trump's not going to do it?
Yes, we do.
I said, how do you know that?
We know that from his past statements before he started running for president, duping people into believing he was anti-illegal immigration. Plus, we know that because he didn't have the balls in his meeting with the president of Mexico to even bring it up, and he's already shifted his position on who's going to pay for the thing, not to mention the fact that he'd never get it passed through Congress, especially since he's hurting the ability for Republicans to maintain their majority in Congress because he doesn't give a damn about anybody else but himself. And it's obvious to anybody who understands who Donald Trump really is.
John, you're not answering my question. Do you want a wall around the border?
I think we ought to absolutely have a stronger southern border, whether that means a wall. I don't know if it's logistically possible to put a quote wall across the entire southern
Do
border, but
you
I'm all in
want,
favor of greater border
John,
security.
you're not,
Absolutely.
do you want a big, beautiful wall around the border?
Again, I don't know enough to know if it's logistically or
Yeah, but you
politically
know what
possible,
you
but
want. I'm asking you, do you want a big, beautiful
I
wall
want a
around
lot
the
of
border?
things, Jesse, that aren't going to
You're
happen
not answering that question,
realistically,
John.
both logistically or politically. But yeah, if you could do it magically, sure, let's do it magically.
Do you personally want a wall, a big, beautiful wall around the border?
Again, sure, sure. If you can do it by magic, let's do it. It's not going to happen, Jesse. It's not going to happen because Trump's not going to get elected, and even if he was, it's not politically viable. It might not be logistically viable, but sure, if you could do it by magic, go for it.
What is it? So it sounds as though you have given up on the country.
No, actually, I think that we made a mistake in the nominating process, which is going to put us a step or maybe two steps behind where we certainly should be if we hadn't been a bunch of morons in the nominating process. We should have won this election. But you know what? Based upon where we are, if we don't completely lose our minds, Jesse, I think the path going forward, we can still save this. I think that if we eradicate the cancer that is Donald Trump, from this movement and this party. The 2018 Senate map looks exceedingly good for Republicans. And I think that there are a number of candidates on the horizon who would beat Hillary Clinton in 2020. And if enough of the conservative justices survive another 4 years, we might, and this is a big might, but I think there are circumstances under which we can save the Supreme Court in 6 to 8 years from now.
Let me ask,
now, there are a lot of things that have to happen,
time,
but all of that is possible.
John,
It's unfortunate because it doesn't need to be this way.
John, because of time, aren't you happy that because of Donald Trump, we now see the actions and thoughts of the RINO Republicans like Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan and the guy from Arizona and Marco Rubio? They're all RINO fake pretense Republicans, and that they are willing to help Hillary Clinton. They have joined forces with the media and the Democrats to go against and stop Donald Trump. Doesn't that say a lot about the RINO Republicans? The one thing I noticed is that with the Democrats, they support one another. It doesn't matter if they are sexual predators. It doesn't matter if they have lied to us over and over again. They never turn on each other. But I noticed in the Republican Party, the establishment have turned on Donald Trump, whereas the Democrats would have never done that. Why? Doesn't that concern you?
That used to be something that made Republicans better than Democrats until this particular cycle, when we nominated a liberal con man as our presidential nominee and decided to stick by him, even though he's a sexual predator and has no chance of winning. I think your narrative there is completely false. I think that, if anything, the Republican establishment has stood far too much.
What's false about what I just said? We have the establishment, the good old boy club, turning against another Republican, supporting.
He's not a Republican, Jesse.
Supporting the Democrat.
He's not a Republican.
He's representing the Republican Party at
He's not a Republican. Not even close to a Republican. He's not a good human being. He's not qualified. He can't win. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
My question is, doesn't that concern you, that the Republicans would turn on each other and support the Democrats, where the Democrat would never support the Republicans? They would never turn on each other. What happened to the Republicans? What is it that they're hiding? Why is it that they're trying to keep the outsider from getting in?
Your premise is completely false. Donald Trump is not a Republican. He's not a conservative. He's a liberal con man who supported Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton far more than any of those Republicans you have ever mentioned.
He supported all of the Republicans. He's given in. He's a businessman. He's done business with them.
Yeah, look at who he gave the money to, Jesse. Look at who he praised. There's a video out just this week of Donald Trump waxing poetic in 2008 about how incredibly wonderful Hillary Clinton is, Bill Clinton is. It was basically a campaign ad for a future Hillary Clinton presidential campaign. And this is not just one time. This was time and time and time again, even after Benghazi. You've been duped, Jesse. It's
John,
okay. It's okay. It's okay to acknowledge you were duped.
I'm going to have you back when the week or so after the election, so we can discuss your disappointment and that you were wrong about Trump winning.
I'd be happy to.
Let's go.
I'd be happy to, Jesse, as long as you agreed to do the same.
I will, of course. Let's go to the Baba Go-To Guy of Los Angeles. Baba Go-To Guy, you're on with John.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Jesse. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
John, very disappointed in hearing what you're having to say. Donald Trump is much more of a Republican than all those RINOs who are against the establishment. The main reason I'm going for Trump, the main reason I know Trump is true to his word and will do all these conservative things he says he wants to do, is because the establishment knows he's telling the truth and knows he will keep his word. That's why they're so against him. The establishment has been backstabbing us for decades. And now that they're totally against Trump, I know Trump is true to his word. I wouldn't know that if not for the reaction of the establishment RINO like yourself. I wouldn't know it. And so this is what really tells me that Donald Trump will keep his word, because these people know Donald Trump just like you do, and they're totally against him because they're afraid he will keep his word.
Go ahead, John.
The last thing I'm worried about is Donald Trump keeping his word. How about keeping his word about putting a couple $100 million or more into this campaign and self-funding it? He's a liar. He's just yesterday he said he put $100 million in. He hasn't put anywhere near $100 million in. You know why? Because he's a fraud, doesn't have it, and he knows he's going to lose, and he's smart enough not to put good money after bad. You've been duped.
Let's go to Jarvis. Let's go to Jarvis out of Nashville, Tennessee. Jarvis, you're on with John Ziegler.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, job. Because of time, go right to your question or comment.
Yeah, I wanted to know, did he vote for Bush? Did he vote for Bush or any other of the last several Republican nominees?
I have voted for every single devil and non-devil presidential Republican nominee in my lifetime, and I never imagined that I would not until we decided to nominate a liberal con man.
He want to know, did you vote
so
for...
Did you vote for Bush?
Yes.
Well, he was so liberal, it was ridiculous, especially his last term. So how do you justify that?
Because George Bush was more liberal than John Kerry?
Right? I'm talking about George Bush increased in all them social programs his last term. How did you justify voting for him twice?
I voted for him because he was a lot more conservative than Al Gore and a lot more conservative than John Kerry.
In what way?
And he was a better person.
Kerry would have did the same thing, right? He would have did the same thing on the social programs, right? And he did it. So what's the difference?
What's the difference between George Bush and John Kerry?
Yeah,
I ripped George Bush a lot for being pro-big government, right? And in fact, to my own detriment. So I understand what you're talking about, but there's no comparison between him and his opposition.
Real fast, John, who is a better person, Hillary or Trump? A better person?
Better person. I view Hillary Clinton as one of the worst people that humanity can put forward. But I don't even believe that Donald Trump is human. I look at Donald Trump as an alien from outer space.
So I
would actually say by a small margin Hillary Clinton.
Amazing. Amazing, John. Don't let your wife hear you speak that way.
Good talking to you, Jesse.
John, thanks for coming on, man. We'll talk to you again after the election.